Barbara Ehrenreich is my guest. Nickel and Dime, do you remember that book? New York Times bestseller. Her latest, This Land is Their Land. She's going to be at the Lindale United Church of Christ, 31st and Aldrich Avenue, South Minneapolis, tonight at 7:30 p.m., sponsored by Majors and Quinn Booksellers. During the break, Barbara, I was talking about this just to bring people up to date. I think about the struggles that we all face. And I appreciate this now more than ever because for me, in the last 14 months, I have been humbled by things that I wasn't prepared to be humbled by. I used to think that I did everything right. I'm a reasonably smart guy, came from nothing. Neither of my parents graduated from high school, and yet I was lucky enough to go to college. I was lucky enough to go to law school. I was lucky enough to practice law. I was lucky enough to get a job at WCCO. I had health insurance. I had all of those things. And then about 14 months ago, my little girl, my youngest daughter, was diagnosed with epilepsy. I remember sitting in the back room with my wife, and our doctor sits down and looks at us, and this is when she's having about 100 to 150 seizures a day. And our doctor says, if we can't fix this, she will die. And I remember looking down at my hands, and I remember looking into my wife's eyes and looking into the doctor's eyes saying, but I don't have epilepsy. My wife doesn't have epilepsy. No one in our entire extended families have ever had this. So I'm trying to reconcile the fact that I may lose somebody in my own life. I then go home and I have stacks of bills from the hospital, from the doctors, from the ambulance, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars worth. This is after my insurance, and I think, I'm that smart guy. I felt like an idiot, like I had been played, like I had been gamed. And I remember thinking to myself, is this the America that I always thought it was? And from that time forward, I'm just not so sure.
Well, and I would just emphasize in this story, which is appalling, that you are a person with insurance.
I'm a person with insurance.
You know, and that's what makes it particularly painful. Usually we, think that the real horror is the 47 million Americans who don't have insurance. And here's another depressing number. It's an estimated 18,000 people a year die because they can't get medical care because they don't have health insurance. We don't have any numbers about the people who may die because even though they are insured, it's not enough to cover their needs. No, it's just not working. It's not working at all. And it drives me crazy because when you say, well, we've got to change something, we've got this, we've got to have a civilized health system like other countries. They'll say, oh, well, but the private health insurance companies are so big, we can't do anything about it. Can't do anything about this whole private system.
Or what you will hear is, that's socialized medicine, we can't have that.
Well, that's what they said about Medicare. and I think there are a lot of people who said that about Medicare in 1963 or 4.
And the post office, and our roadways, and our school system.
Yeah, no, but one of my more caustic proposals in this book is, when I realize that there are children dying in America for lack of medical care because they don't have health insurance, I looked at some of the things they had died of. And these are things a veterinarian could handle. Like a 12-year-old boy died, I think it was last year, of an abscess tooth. No health insurance. It would have cost $80 to get it pulled. He's family in poverty. They couldn't do it. He dies. The abscess tooth. A vet could do that. So I decided my new demand is if we can't have universal health insurance, let's have veterinary care for all Americans, okay?
Well, that's the part of this that I always find wild, is we keep hearing, we have the best health care in the world. Some people do. There's a whole ton of people who don't. And that's true.
And you find people increasingly engaging in what's called medical tourism, going, flying, say, all the way to Bangalore, India for their surgery, because it's cheaper to do that than to get it done here, even with insurance.
At what point do we get all sides together, or is this even possible? And maybe I'm just blowing smoke here, because I see one side saying, let's privatize all of it. And I have the other side saying, let's not go as far as we should, because apparently it's politically untenable. And so what I have nobody actually saying, this is a fundamental problem that we must fix. And I know it's not convenient, I know it's not popular, I know that it's expensive, but I don't have anybody, as I can recall, actually saying, let's do this for real.
Well, plenty of people are saying it, really.
Well, I don't see two guys who are running for the presidency who are senators saying it.
No, and I was very disappointed by both Obama and Clinton's health plans, because neither of them took the necessary step of separating your health insurance from your employment, your job. This is ridiculous. It's attached to our jobs.
Well, actually, as I recall, John McCain wants to separate it. President Bush wanted to separate it too, but he wanted to just put it in your own lap.
Oh,
If I'm not
that's
mistaken.
another thing.
Wasn't that right? What's wrong with
That's
that?
another thing.
Nope. Barbara, stay with me. We're going to continue through the hour talking about that. But there's a bunch of other things in This Land Is Their Land that talk about the things that we struggle with in the middle class, and that's what we're talking about.